You are listening to the audio edition of Unstoppable Farce, the Mitch Maloney story, by Mitch Maloney, read by the author.
Chapter 22, Unstoppable Force. Mitch, Mitch, Mitch. I can hear the massive crowd cheering, chanting my name, begging for me to take the stage, clamoring for the kind of yucks that only I can deliver. What can I say? When you've got it, and I've got it in spades times a million. I point my thumb at the scissor lift platform. Is this thing ready for me or what? The operator, Demetrios, gives me a nod. Ready when you are, Mr. Maloney. I step onto the platform. He pulls the lever and the hydraulics kick into gear. It wasn't quite the tour I had originally envisioned. No Madison Square Garden or Royal Albert Hall. Venue after venue, landmark after landmark, they told me I wasn't welcome. Said Mr. Mirth had become too toxic, but reports of my cancellation were a little premature. See, Unstoppable Force isn't just the name of this tour. It's my whole shtick. So what if the tour was a little lower profile than what I had imagined? It was also twice as lucrative. Sure, the coastal elites called me a sellout. And they were right. In fact, every gig I did across the Persian Gulf sold out. So what if I didn't perform on top of the Eiffel Tower or the Taj Mahal like I had planned? The paychecks were through the roof, and the standing ovations were in heavy rotation. Whether it was rib crackers in Riyadh, the Quiptorium in Qatar, or jihadi jesters in Jalalabad. I even visited Maragaza to headline at Donnie's Golden Giggles. It's easy for critics to sit in judgment, throwing pebbles from the sidelines, but I bet they wouldn't say no to the green room amenities in the Arab Kingdom. You haven't lived until you've enjoyed unlimited access to the caviar bar backstage at the Giggle Gulag in Abu Dhabi. Take it from me. I'll tell you what, though. The sheikhs and emirs and crown princes and mullahs and all the guys running things over there, they get a bad rap back home. The ones I met were all top shelf. Sometimes they'll just hand you a big envelope full of cash. I don't even know why. All I know is that I think they're all swell guys, and I fully endorse whatever they're up to. Oh, and by the way, in all the time I spent there, I didn't see any journalists getting sawed up with bone saws, not once. Plus, those oligarchs have got the coolest stuff. You should see their collections of trained hunting hawks and beauty pageant camels and gold-plated Lamborghinis. MBS even took me for a spin around the Arabian Sea on his $500 million super mega yacht Serene. Would a bad guy name his super mega yacht Serene? I don't think so. It's got 7 swimming pools. 7. What can I tell you? For some reason, my worldview, the Maloney POV, just plays well in the Gulf states. And not just the sandy ones in the Middle East either. Also the swampy ones back home like Florida and Mississippi, all the states on the Gulf of Buttigieg. But getting back to this chapter, they may have turned their noses up at the Sydney Opera House and the Taj Mahal, but I'm happy to report that old-fashioned show business bribery is alive and well in Athens. All it takes is slipping some drachmas to the Feta Famiglia, if you know who I'm talking about. Not only did they secure the permits I needed for the renovations, they're also providing security for the show, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a serious improvement from the Proud Clowns motorcycle gang I have been using as my muscle for most of the tour. Compared to them, the Spanakopita Syndicate seems a lot less stabby. I shouldn't have had to resort to the criminal element to get this done. The Malakas in the government here should be kissing my Canadian-American caboose. Not only have I single-handedly boosted their tourist season, and I mean by a lot, I've also seriously spruced up the venue as well. All of that so-called blood money that I raked in on the Persian Gulf leg of the tour went straight into the renovations. And I'm not just talking about the hydraulic system that I'm currently using to make my big entrance. There's also the sizable furnished basement I had put into the foundation, so I had a green room to rise out of. Not to mention the 95,000 additional seats I had built into giant plywood and aluminum stilts extending from the rocky cliffs. You're welcome, Greece. Mitch. The only thing that's really bugging me at this point, my moment of triumph, is the whole Dunsberger bomber thing, which you've probably heard about if you follow the news. 37 Dunsberger franchises so far, burned to the ground with dozens of charred corpses inside. But the thing I find most disturbing about that whole situation isn't the property damage or the loss of human life. It's the accusations that I'm the one behind it all, just because some nosy reporter at the famous comedian Biweekly Mirror did a cross-analysis of my on-stage banter and the Dunsberger Bombers Manifesto, the hot-take industrial complex and its future, and found a lot of crossover as far as word selection, grammatical patterns, and hyphen errors. I didn't even know you could misuse a hyphen on stage. And now people are taking bets on prediction markets like Laugh Sheet for how long it'll take before I'm arrested and brought up on domestic terrorism charges. Look, do I have a motive? You bet your sweet haunches I do. You'd be cheesed off at those two-faced, backstabbing Dunsko International executive creeps too if you got dropped from a multi-million-dollar sponsorship deal like I did. But I wouldn't take it out on their customers, no matter how flabby or foul-smelling they may be. Besides, anybody that knows me at all could tell you I'm no terrorist. Being a terrorist takes strategic long-term planning, a passionate commitment to a cause, and a lot of hard work. I've been called a lot of things in my career, but a dedicated, hard-working strategic thinker isn't one of them. But I can't let the fact that I might spend the rest of my life in prison on trumped-up charges get me down. This is no time to focus on the negative. I have to zero in on what really matters. The act. Mitch. Finally, I reach the top of the tube. As the clamshell doors open over my head, the loud hiss of the fog machines kick in, and I am enveloped in thick purple smoke as I emerge through the stage floor. And as it slowly dissipates, I see them through the haze in row after row. Thousands and 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 thousands of adoring fans. My fans, the Maloney fanwitches, all on their feet, clapping and cheering in unison. Mitch. All I want is to give them their money's worth, and since it's too complicated to provide each of them with an Ivy League education, I figure instead I'll just give them the best hour of comedy anyone has ever seen. I want to give them what they're thirsty for, that dose of Mr. Mirth they're craving, all the classic routines, but should I begin with my Mina Suvari and Mira Sorvino bit? Maybe I'll kick it off with a hilarious freestyle rant about how everybody's f***ing nuts. What am I thinking? For this show, there's only one gag that will do. I bring the mic to my lips. Crunch echoes too loud. Orange cheese dust tells the tale. Shame snorfing again. They explode in thunderous guffaws. I take it in. The ability to make somebody laugh is the greatest gift a guy can have. That feeling in your chest when you know you've harnessed the power of laughter to lift some poor slob out of their pathetic, pointless life as a non-comedian. It's what a yuckmonger such as myself lives for, and the cheesy pleaser haiku bit always does the trick. They don't need the setup. They've been following the act for years at this point. We share a shorthand, the audience and I. I can feel the tiled marble stage below my feet vibrating from the collective convulsions of the crowd. I'm starting to worry a little about the structural integrity of this 2,000-year-old structure, and even more so the humongous and hastily constructed new bleachers shaking violently to and fro. Naturally, I'm concerned about some sort of mass casualty event, but it's reassuring to know that my fans would willingly give their lives in exchange for the experience of seeing me live at the top of my game. I'm waiting for the laughter to fade a few more decibels so they can hear the next haiku, when a high-pitched whistle and then a series of sputtering, popping noises rips across the sky. Must be some kind of pyrotechnic effect that was supposed to be part of the big finale. I lean back in toward the mic. Sounds like my lower intestine after I eat a bag of cheesy pleasers. Laughter and applause rings out across the citadel until it is overtaken by another blaring, flapping whistle in the sky. This time I look up, following hundreds of extended pointing arms with my eyes, and that's when I realize that was no defective firework. This is some kind of attack, a series of electric pulses ripping through the sky itself, like little balls of lightning, and from each one pops a tiny figure in black, growing larger as they circle down and around with their small tactical parachutes. See now, this is why I love performing live. You can practice all you want, spend endless hours honing your act in the mirror, but all bets are off when you're standing on that stage. It's hard to prepare for a small battalion of paramilitants falling from the sky. I've dealt with gig crashers before, but this is the first time I've seen them fall from some kind of tear in the fabric of space-time. I mean, I get it, nobody wants to deal with StubHub, but this is ridiculous. I wonder what kind of technology lets you fall from the sky out of nowhere like that. What kind of holes are those holes? Some kind of astral apertures? Cosmic corridors? Dimensional doorways? No. I've been in this business long enough to recognize a plot hole when I see one. A very useful technology if you can get your hands on it. Maybe the tzatziki triad should have spent a little less time enforcing the no outside food or drink policy and a little more time preparing for some sort of interdimensional insurgency. As they get closer to the stage, you can hear them shouting out their revolutionary slogans in call and response. From the mountain to the ocean, down with stand-up mass promotion. I've heard of this bunch before. AntiHA. They see the world through the lens of so-called critical quip theory and believe all zinger-flingers should be paid equally, from the top-tier guys like me to the lowliest of open-mic mirthmongers. Well, call me old-fashioned, but I think people should get rewarded for their hard work, and, if they're successful enough, never have to pay taxes again. Look, industrial comedialism may have its flaws, but I'll take it over what these whack jobs are selling any day. If you want to be a regular old-fashioned Marxist, that's up to you. I know a lot of people are these days, and I've got no complaints about your orthodox Chekhovians or your traditional Grouchovics, but these guys are neo-primitivist, radical anarcho-harpovites who want to smash the state, seize the means of mirth production, and then abolish syntax entirely. If they had their way, verbal stand-up comedy as we know it would be gone and replaced by some kind of elevated kabuki clown show. And yet they can write a 50,000-word manifesto. If there's one thing I can't stand, it's hypocrisy. Meanwhile, the Baklava boys that are supposed to be providing security for this event are busy handing over their weapons and getting zip-tied to the stage. Like I always say, it's hard to find good help these days. And I guess the Spanakopita Syndicate is no exception. One by one, the paratroopers find their footing at various locations in the aisle and around the stage. Their outfits are an assortment of makeshift thrift store fatigues, but they all wear matching black berets and patches with the stenciled letters PLF. All in all, I'd say there's a juggler's dozen AntiHA terrorists, and the crazy thing is, I think I recognize most of them. In fact, several of them have opened for me at some point. All of them were solid wisecrack wranglers, too, as far as I can recall. But for whatever reason, none of them ever crossed that threshold to the point where you would call them a famous comedian. Is this what it's come to these days? A joke jockey can't quite break through to the big time and he turns to political violence? Is that where we're at as a society? The audience, meanwhile, is still laughing and clapping, assuming this is all part of the show. I suppose I could clue them in that this isn't part of the evening's planned entertainment, and they should probably make their way toward the exits. But I don't want to ruin the show for everyone. As long as they're having fun, who am I to get in the way? A militant marches toward me. Her wavy brown hair spills out from under a scarf, her Uzi pointed straight at my joke hole. Instinctively, I back away from the mic, and she grabs it. If I'm not mistaken, that's punchline peddler Megan Keister. She announces to the crowd that the group is called the Punchline Liberation Front, or PLIF. An international, leaderless, decentralized, evolutionary movement dedicated to ending comedy abuse through direct action. Now, maybe you're thinking this would be a good time for me to kick a little caboose, on account of the fact I've got a black belt in Comito Defendu, and thanks to Andy Richter's rigorous regimen, I currently have the physical proportions of a Flying Fists He-Man action figure if it was just a little bit more swole. But the thing is, I'm a chuckle chucker, not a fighter. Violent confrontations might work on the big screen, but a famous comedian's autobiography, not so much. Never mind what Artie Lang would have you believe. Besides, I haven't been to a Comito dojo since Chapter 9 and have forgotten most of the basic slaps and blocks. So when a pair of super laid-back identical twins with matching goatees and eyeglasses, who I'm pretty sure are Keith and Kenny Lucas, zip-tie me to a pillar, I don't put up too much of a fight. Just enough to keep things fun. I figure I can reason with them. Listen, fellas and gals, fellow radicals, I'm not sure what you've got in mind here, but this is my show, you understand? It's my name on the giant marquee I had them put up where the Parthenon used to be. And the people in the audience didn't pay to hear what some filthy AntiHA whack jobs have to say. No offense. I'm not your enemy. I wish I was part of your whole cool underground thing. Believe me, I used to be like you. I was so underground that nobody, including my friends and family, even knew I was a comedian. And being at the top like I am, with this level of fame and wealth, believe me, it ain't no Swiss picnic. Jim Carrey called fame the Iron Maiden of a mass persona, the Torquemada's impalement of any chance at a true self.
Endnote 1.
And I'm not sure what that means exactly, but I think he's probably onto something. Let me give you an example of why being famous and wealthy beyond most people's imaginations ain't all it's cracked up to be. There's some guy on DunceTube who calls himself the Hippopotamus Cemetery for some reason, and he makes these elaborate video collages comparing my career to the Manson family. Can you believe that? Oh, sure, they're fun to watch, but that doesn't make it any less painful. And then there's Clown Viculor over on Clip Clop, who, when he's not busy pushing gesture density booster supplements, spends his time accusing me of Rodney maxing. I'm a pretty laid-back guy, as you can probably tell by the way I'm handling this whole situation, but I have a couple of rules. Rule number 1 is no crowd work, because I respect the craft. And rule number 2 is no openers. Not since Chris Fleming was torn limb from limb live on stage at the Knockety Knocks in Knoxville last fall. Sometimes my fan base is maybe a little too loyal, but the AntiHA whack jobs are ignoring my arguments completely, pretending like they can't hear me, which is easy to do when they're the ones in charge of the sound system. And the current holder of the mic has the mustache of a beatnik poet. Pretty sure that's Baron Vaughn, a yuck-hawker from New Mexico who once shared a bill with me at the Just for Chuckles Comedy Carnival in Quebec City. He tells the crowd that this action is intended to hasten the collapse of late-stage stand-upialism and to pave the way towards a post-podcast future, or as he puts it, to kickstart the devolution. Viva la devolution, shout his comrades. The next speaker is an ethnically ambiguous woman with short, dark hair and an oversized army jacket with sleeves rolled up to her elbows. It's Brooklyn-based banter bandit Claire O'Kane, and she's accusing me of chuckle washing. Says I've misused the privilege of my platform. When she's done, she passes the mic to the next insurgent. He looks like a circus strongman from a century ago, bulky and bald with a thick horseshoe mustache. Guy Branum. Not only have I seen this mirthmonger in action on stage, he also popped up on Jeopardy of all places, and not the celebrity version or the pop culture variety either, so maybe he's got a little more going on upstairs than his AntiHA buddies. But any hope I have of appealing to his intellect goes out the window when he reads off his little piece of paper, accusing me of reinforcing regressive political viewpoints that punch down on marginalized communities. To which I say, if you can think of an easier way to get a laugh, I'd like to hear it. But nothing these whack jobs have said so far has been the slightest bit funny. Not even a little bit. I guess they weren't joking when they said they wanted to liberate the punchlines. What a waste. They've become something even worse than anarcho-Marxists. They've become anti-comedians, stand-up tragedians, something I dabbled with a little bit in college, and that's a dark path. That's a ticket straight to nowhere. Take it from me. Guy Branum is still talking, and he's really building up to some big unfunny point. I'm complicit with the hot take industrial complex, he says, because of my corporate sponsorship deals. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Are you telling me that this whole AntiHA takeover is because you think this tour is still being backed by Dunsko International? I lost my gig as the Duke of Dunsberger and all my big-time sponsor deals last chapter. The only financial support I've got now is a mom-and-pop flat-earther incontinence shield business, and that's barely enough to cover the cost of this recording. I paid for this gig myself, the old-fashioned way, by grinding it out on the road, with a bunch of gigs for some sheikhs and mullahs. I'm not some puppet of industrial comedialism. I'm independently funded. I see a couple of the terrorists, Joe Firestone and Nick Youssef, I believe, muttering something to each other, shaking their heads in apparent confusion. A diminutive subversive in a blue and black camo jumpsuit, Australian-Chinese quip-whipper Aaron Chen, who once warmed up for me at Hoots in Houston, mumbles something about how they all burned their dunce phones when they made a pledge to comedic primitivism, so they're a little behind on their current events. Apparently my lack of corporate sponsorship has changed the calculus for Pliff, 'cause they start packing up their gear and muttering their apologies. But somebody has other ideas. A series of short blasts ripple through the ancient theater and echo out into the valley. One by one, the AntiHA terrorists freeze in grotesque tableau, shafts of stage lights streaming through newborn chest cavities, waves of gore raining down onto the first several rows of the audience. One by one, the soldiers of Pliff buckle at the knees and fall over into pools of their own blood. Slowly and deliberately, an egg-shaped urban gorilla waddles out from the back of the stage and over toward the mic, thick smoke still wafting from his sawed-off shotgun. There's something familiar in his slumped shoulders, his sweating brow, his ragged energy. He pulls his balaclava up over his noggin. Oh sure, I know this guy. I saw him years ago, years before I even got into chuckle business myself. Dorian. He starts right in, ranting about how the real enemy is the Brotherhood of the Brick Wall, elite operatives lurking in the shadows and pulling the strings and levers of power within the Royal Order of Jesters who used to be called the Brotherhood of the Snake, that today not only controls the price of Gestachrome, but all transnational wisecrack trafficking networks. Who knows what he's talking about? Maybe that sort of gibberish makes sense on the other side of that plot hole. Or maybe he's just detached from reality, like so many people are these days. Honestly, I'm glad he's a conspiracy nut and not here to accuse me of stealing that old joke of his, the one that Mark Maron mentioned last chapter.
Wow, buddy. Oh my god, dude. Is that what you think? You think I'd go to all this trouble just because of some joke? Is that what you think of me, Daddy? Is that what you think, dude? Seriously? It wasn't a joke. It was a whole chunk. Thanks for reminding me, idiot.
I didn't realize he could hear my inner monologue. I better change the subject, and quick.
I can still hear your inner monologue, dude. That's what you get. That's what you get, dude, for putting me in here. And also, while we're on the subject, why'd you have to describe me as egg-shaped? I don't look like some goddamn Humpty Dumpty egg-ass motherfucker. You shouldn't do me like that, Daddy.
Oh, come on, Dorian. You're not telling me you honestly think my bit is a rip-off of your bit, do you? Name one thing they have in common, besides the basic premise, and the joke mechanics, and some of the tags, and the fact that the punchlines are identical except for a single word. But any similarity beyond that whatsoever is just a crazy coincidence. And the craziest part of the coincidence is that I actually saw you do your version, years before I even thought of my version. Crazy, right? It's something they call parallel thinking. Look, Dorian, you can't get all hung up worrying about stuff like authenticity or originality. You'll drive yourself crazy with that stuff. There's a version of us inside of our minds that does not correspond to our actuality, an idea of who we are that is unaffected by time or reality. Then one day you are confronted by the person you really are, the you have become, the one who exists in the world, the one that breathes and shits and screams, and you realize the people we think we are may never have existed. You destroyed the man you remember, and in his place is you. You have become a stranger to yourself. You have become an imposter in your own skin. That's from Running the Light by Sam Tallent, by the way.
Endnote 2.
See, that's what I'm talking about, dude. That's why I framed you up, to look like the Dunsberger bomber, dude. You can't even come up with your own observations or deep thoughts. Your whole persona is... Hey, wait a minute. You're ripping me off right now, aren't you? You're trying to do my voice. Is that your Dorian? Oh my god, dude. Seriously?
Don't be ridiculous. I'm not doing my Dorian. I mean, I could if I wanted to, obviously. I am a world-renowned impressionist. So if I were doing Dorian, I would be totally nailing it. But your voice is too special, too unique, too obscure for the listener/readers to care about it, so why go to the trouble? But can I get real with you for a minute, Dorian? Let's stop pretending this is all about some silly joke that may or may not have been stolen. I think we both know what this is really about. You feel like you don't belong here, that this isn't your story. You're wondering how you ended up in the middle of my story. See, there's two kinds of people in this world. There's people like me that have what the head shrinkers call main character syndrome, or MCS. And in this book, actually, that's me exclusively. And then there's guys like you that suffer from minor character syndrome, or MCS. You're irked. You're cheesed off. Frankly, you're PO'd. And who can blame you? If I woke up in the middle of your memoir and I heard myself described as an egg-shaped domestic terrorist, I'd probably be pretty PO'd too. But that's just the reality of this world. You might as well accept it. There's nothing you can do about it anyway. I just have one final request. Let me finish my set. Don't you think we should give them what they paid for before you kill them? Doesn't that sound reasonable? You're not a heartless monster, are you, Dedurian? Dedurian opens up his puffy jacket, revealing a strange contraption attached to his torso. A confusing collection of tubes and wires, long red sticks presumably full of explosives, soft bricks that look like silly putty, and of course, there's a great big digital timer right in the middle of his chest. He pulls the little levers sticking out of its side, and the red numbers light up. 5 minutes. Final 5, dude. My nipples are so hard right now. For real, Daddy. He pushes one more button, and the countdown begins. I wipe the blood off the microphone, and I turn to the audience. How about this guy? I ask, thumb pointing at Dedurian. He's crazier than a soup sandwich, am I right? He's nuttier than a squirrel turd. This guy is exactly what I'm talking about when I say everybody is a f***ing nutcase. The audience is on their feet, clapping with all their might. They're beyond laughter now, openly weeping at my famous catchphrase. There's nothing an audience loves more than a callback. It doesn't even have to make sense, and they just love it. You wouldn't think a terrorist takeover and shotgun massacre would be a good way to set up a joke, and yet it works. 5 minutes, the ultimate measure of a chuckle chucker. 5 minutes to live, 5 minutes to kill, or 4 minutes 42 seconds to be exact. I have to face reality, or whatever facsimile of reality I find myself in. I'm not going to make it to the end of this chapter in one piece, and that's just how it is. I'm going to die middle-aged and leave a medium-looking corpse. The audience is still going nuts. Some FCs like to cut the audience off when they keep laughing like this, but my way is to surf the laugh. I'm like the clever Hans of comedy. I stop tapping my foot when the audience tells me they're ready. Hopefully the laughter will die down sometime soon so I can tell at least one more joke. 3 minutes 17 seconds. 16. 15. The fact that I know exactly how long I've got left. It's a funny thing. Reminds me of something Norm Macdonald once said. When it's unexpected, death comes fast like a ravenous wolf and tears open your throat with a merciful fury. But when it's expected, it comes slow and patient like a snake.
Endnote 3.
This is somewhere between those two options, like a half-snake, part-wolf creature, coming straight at you at a medium speed. It's happening very suddenly and right in the middle of my set, and yet every second feels like floating in forever while the audience continues their convulsive mass hysteria. Honestly, it's getting kind of tedious. The silver lining is it gives me a little time to contemplate my demise, vis-a-vis the meaning of life and everything, which is sort of expected for the last chapter of a memoir like this. Seriously, folks, rushing toward the chasm of obliteration really puts things in perspective. Of course, I feel terrible for the tragedy that's about to befall thousands of chuckle aficionados here in the audience. But obviously, the main tragedy here is that it means the end of this story, my life and my career cut short, before I have a chance to tie up all the loose ends. Saget said it best. It sucks when funny people die. It sucks when unfunny people die too, but not as much.
Endnote 4.
I wonder if I'm the first comedian to headline a mass murder. What will the history books have to say? Will they say it was the biggest bomb in the history of stand-up? Or will they say I killed harder than any other FC in history? But right now I don't have the time to worry about how I'm remembered posthumously. The timer just ticked south of 2 minutes. And if I'm ever gonna get deep, this is the...
Mitch? Mitch, sorry, I wasn't gonna interrupt.
You know this is my big death scene that you're butting into. This is my special opportunity to wax poetic at the moment just before I shuffle off my mortal bucket. I was gonna use this time to get real and have a couple of really meaningful flashbacks.
Well, yeah, that's why I cut in. I figured you wouldn't want your final moments on Earth marred by phonetic imprecision, and since you're taking a moment to ponder the nature of death right now, I thought I could use the opportunity to jump in.
How thoughtful.
Yeah, I noticed an extra syllable there when I think you were trying to say posthumously, but it sounded like you said posthumously?
Maybe audio engineers are remembered posthumously, but chuckle chuckers like myself, we're remembered posthumorously. That eventual day, many centuries from now, that nobody will remember my act or find it funny.
Oh, right. Okay. I can hear it now. Sorry, I was just doing my job, Mitch, as always.
I know, Darburius. I know in your own annoying, irritating way, you're trying to help. And believe it or not, I'm glad you cared enough to interrupt me one last time, so thanks, I guess.
Okay, then, yeah, well, look, for what it's worth, I hope you survive this chapter. But if you don't, well, good luck with the whole afterlife thing, I guess.
I appreciate that, Darburius, I really do.
And best wishes to you, too, in your final moments.
Who knows, maybe I'll catch you on the flippy flop.
Yeah, I hope so. That sounds nice.
And Darburius, enjoy everything. Treasure every moment.
I'll do my best, Mitch.
Okay, we're only postponing the inevitable at this point. Goodbye, Darburius.
Okay, then, yeah, I'll see you around. I mean...
I understand. You take care.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Yep, bye-bye.
All right, now, you go on and get out of here, Darburius. This is something I have to do on my own.
Okay, then, yeah, I guess this is Darburius. Over and out.
So where was I? Oh, yeah. Today is as good a day to die as any, I suppose. Better than most, probably. In front of a massive, adoring crowd, at the zenith of my creative abilities, could be a hell of a lot worse. What difference does it make anyway? According to Stephen Wright, every year a person is alive, they pass the date that they're going to die, but they don't know it.
Endnote 5.
So what difference does it make if it's today or 10 years from now? It's the same way I feel about cheesy pleasers. I don't want to die, but I could die. 45 seconds to go. I picture myself exploding. Thousands of pieces of my body pulled in 1,000 different directions. A bloody chunk of my shoulder hurtling toward the balcony. A femur getting flung out into the orchestra. And in the final fraction of a split second, as the rest of me is blown into pulverized Mitch meat, I imagine my signature smirk, that Mr. Mirth grin, will be the last thing anyone will see. I picture the massive, continual gushing geyser of blood, not just my blood, but who knows how many hundreds or thousands of audience members exploding together, all at once, the fountain of obliteration. Reminds me of a joke, and luckily the audience has calmed down just enough to hear me. Hey folks, did you know that Durian here and myself, we've got something in common, and that's our blood type. Because everybody with clinical depression has the same blood type.
Don't say it, dude. Don't even try to say it, dude.
Be negative.
That's mine. The tag is mine, Daddy. Stop doing my bit, asshole.
The crowd erupts in another wave of convulsive laughter. But you know what's actually funny? When I came up with the idea for the name of this tour and this chapter, I thought it was about me, that I was the titular unstoppable force. I thought that whole thing was my shtick. But now I get it. It seems so obvious now.
This audio edition of Unstoppable Farce, the Mitch Maloney story, was made possible by the Seventh Reformed Church of Latter-day Witnesses, the Bleepers.
Are you a freedom-loving American over 47, and you're starting to feel things loosening up down south in your haunches? Well then, maybe it's time for Stars and Stripes Incontinence Shields. Engineered with triple-layer Liberty Lock technology, they keep everything contained, unlike some so-called experts. Stars and Stripes delivers all-day protection with a discreet, comfortable fit. They're ultra-absorbent, breathable, and designed to move with you, even if the ground below you isn't moving at all. So head to the website today and use promo code UNSTOPPABLEDRIPPAGE for 15% off your first order. That's Unstoppable Drippage, all one word. Stars and Stripes Incontinence Shields, reliable protection in a questionable world.